Hello there. So tonight's lesson is on evaluating the expression, and I'd like you to notice that it's going to come with both positive and negative values. We are still following the order of operations, so aside from the new piece that we put in today, it will always revert back to order of operations, so don't forget to follow your notes and the things to be careful from that lesson. Here we go. So our first definition that we have is a variable, and I need you to know that a variable is a letter used to represent a value. And I'm going to put in parentheses because eventually we're going to say that one variable can be more than one value, but for tonight's purposes, one variable is going to equal one value. And what happens when we start to look under the set of directions of evaluate with variables is I have to know what that variable is. I'm going to see tonight evaluate if x equals 2. And that means wherever I see the x, I have to replace it with its known value, which is 2. And that replacing it is called substitution. It's replacing a letter or a variable with its known value. And so as we look at this particular substitution, what you need to just kind of hold on to is that we're going to always encourage each other to use parentheses to show that you plucked out x and that you replaced it with that value that x is. Let's look at this problem. So the first example that we see is evaluate if x is 2, y is 4, and z is 3. Now you'll notice in the variable expression that we see, which is the 2x to the third plus 3x squared minus 4x plus 1, that it's all using x's as our letters. So we're only going to rely on the fact that x equals 2. So the first step that you have to take is you need to substitute your values in. And again, you want to use parentheses. So what I'm going to do is pluck out just the x, replace it with what x equals, but everything else is written exactly the same. Then I'm going to do the same with the next term. Pluck out just the x, put in what x is, but keep everything else the same. And I continued that process until I have no more variables left in it. Now at this point we've gone from a variable expression to a numerical expression. From here on out it's follow order of operations. Now the advantage if you use parentheses is it allows you to format your grouping symbols which guides you through these types of problems. So notice that inside here I have one number in each of my parentheses. So the next thing I have to check is my power. And what I want you guys to be very careful about is to remember that factored form is 2 times 2 times 2, a base of 2 shown 3 times. So when you look at this example, 2 times 2 is 4, and another 4 times 2 gives me 8. Moving on to the next one, notice I'm keeping the 3 the same. I'm just expanding doing exponents at this point in time. 2 times 2 for 4. You'll notice at this last parenthesis that there is no power, so I'm just going to keep and write it as is. Now at this point in time we're down to all multiplication and division. So you'll notice that in front here there is a 2 that's being multiplied to the 8, a 3 that's being multiplied to the 4, and from yesterday's class a negative 4 that's being multiplied to 2. So whatever you say the result is what you write. 2 times 8 is 16. Positive 3 times 4 is a positive 12. Negative 4 times 2 is a negative 8, and then I'm going to carry the 1 down. Now at this point in time we are down to just addition or subtraction, so go left to right. 16 plus 12 is 28. 28 take away 8 is 20. And 20 plus 1 is 21 for our final answer in that example. Remember in the previous class that many of you got caught on this left go right piece for just addition or subtraction, so make that your habit at this point in time. All right, the next example that you see says evaluate if x equals -2 this time, y equals 4, and z equals 3. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take out each letter and put in what its known value is using parentheses. So the 5 stays. We're going to pluck out y and put in what y equals, which is 4. Close your parenthesis. We're going to pluck out z and put in what z equals, which is 3. Now that first term, 5yz, is now complete. And what I want you to notice is notice that there's no outside powers, and hold on to that. We're going to continue to make our substitutions first. So x here is -2, and we're going to use parentheses. And then plus, and then the z is 3 again. But notice this time there is an outside power. So what we're going to do at this point, following order of operations, is say, do we have one number in each of our parentheses? And we for sure do. Next thing we're going to check, do we have any outside powers? And in the first 3 parentheses that we put in, we don't. But in this last one, we do. So that base of a 3 is going to be shown 3 times using multiplication. So we have the 5 still in the 4 and the 3 as the way it was written, and we have this minus and then in parentheses a -2. But the result of 3 times 3, which is 9, and 9 times 3, which is 27. And you want to be very careful about that. From there, we're now going to handle all multiplication. So at this point, we have 5 times 4, which is 20, and 20 times 3, which is 60. Here we have no power outside, we said, so then this subtract says what's the opposite sign of -2, which is a +2. And then there's that 27. Notice that they're all positives here, so we're going to go left to right. We get 62 plus 27, which is 89 for our final answer in this particular example. Now our third example, we're going to do very much the same way. This time x is -1. So again, we're going to pluck out x, and using parentheses, we're going to put in -1. Everything else is written the same way. Then -3, pluck out your x, put in -1. Everything else is still the same. Do the same in the next x. And then again, we have a -8, so we're all done our substitution at this point in time. Order of operations says exponents next. So the first one has an outside power of 3. Be very careful. It's a -1 times a -1, which is a +1, and 1 times a -1 gives me a -1 answer. 3 negatives, an odd number, makes it negative. Now our next problem, I'm going to just handle the exponent first. So a -1 times a -1 is a +1. Notice I haven't touched the 3 here. Third parenthesis, there is no power, so I'm now going to multiply that +7 times a -1 and get a -7. At this point in time, we have still one parenthesis left that I need to multiply, so it's a -3 times a +1, and the answer is that that's a -3. So at this point in time, what I would like you to notice that every single one of these terms, if the sign of the term is in front of it, are negative. So that means the signs are the same, so I'm going to add them all up and keep that sign. So 1 plus 3 is 4, 4 plus 7 is 11, 11 plus 8 is 19, and I'm going to keep that negative sign. Now this is part 1 of your 2-part video clip. Please, for examples 4, 5, 6, and 7, look for evaluating the expression part 2.